The gospel passage from Matthew ends with Jesus asking this question: Do you understand all this? And it's surprising that the disciples answer yes. It almost appears that this would be a yes in all caps. So often throughout the earthly ministry of Jesus, the disciples seem to be baffled by what he was saying. But on this occasion, they answer, yes, we understand these parables. I wonder what it is they exactly believe they understand about the parables. I think about so much of life and how when we want to master a skill, when we want to be involved in some hobby or activity, there are fundamentals, there are basics that we need to learn, we need to master. Just recently in our home, I came upon my trombone. When I was in junior high and high school, playing the trombone was a big part of my life. And I think about music and playing an instrument and how there are many basics, the music theory that goes along with playing an instrument. With the trombone, you need to learn the positions on the slide for each note. Of course, you need to know the value of a note, the rhythm. You need to understand the key that you will be playing in. You need to know the volume, the crescendos and decrescendos. And you must have all these pieces of information. Of course, the real challenge comes when you need to apply that knowledge and play a song, especially when you play in a band or orchestra. All those pieces of information need to integrate in order for you to be able to truly play that instrument in a way that's going to blend and create beautiful music. Of course, these same principles apply to many other parts of our lives. I was thinking about sports, and at this time of year, baseball season, there are fundamentals to every sport, every game. In baseball, you have various fundamentals. Of course, you have to have the understanding of how you are to hit. And as they talk about in baseball, hit a round ball with a round bat. You need to understand fielding and throwing and running the bases. But one can know the skills, and yet when you're in the middle of a game, everything happens in just a little bit different way, and you need to make the application. This is also true, say, with painting. In order to create a work of art through use of paints, you need to understand colors and how one may mix those colors. You need to understand shading, shadows, how you create those shadows. And then, of course, different paints and different techniques and styles create a different texture with the painting. We know that we need to master often these basics, these pieces of information. But the challenge may come when we need to make the integration to apply it to real life situations. We find in the ministry of Jesus that he did not start with giving a long list of basics, of fundamentals, of pieces of knowledge, of laws that people needed to know. Rather, he started with the application. That's why the parables are so powerful. Jesus told the information he wanted to communicate through the use of parables, real life situations. I think about that, and I believe that is such a powerful understanding because we know life is messy. Relationships are difficult. It's very hard to take these fundamentals, these principles, these beliefs, and create a system. We often like systemic approaches, systematic theology, so to speak. We want to have this tight, neat, black and white system, but life is just not like that. Life is very rarely black and white. It is a lot of shades of gray. Life is messy. So Jesus teaches through life application. That is where he begins. That is why he uses these parables, these real life situations. Now, within those parables, there are basics. And I think about the parables that were read today in the Gospel of Matthew, and we have some very clear basics. First of all, Jesus talks about the power of aligning our lives with the eternal God. We experience just a bit of what it means as finite individuals to brush up against the infinite God in the presence of Christ. And Jesus tells us that if we are present to the eternal, if we have lives that are open to the creator of the universe, it's not going to take much to have a huge impact. See, so often we believe that maybe the size of our book of laws, maybe we believe that the massive temple shows how we are committed to God. Maybe memorizing a code of ethics. But for Jesus, it's not there that we find the massive amount of what we need to truly be people that are followers of God. Rather, it is about aligning ourselves with the presence of the eternal God. And what we will discover is that it certainly does not take much of eternity being present in our lives to have a huge impact. Well, there's a second principle, a second fundamental that Jesus is sharing in this grouping of parables. And it has to do with where is your passion in life? We can see how these parables, these two sets, work together very well. But once again, there are basics here for one to learn. Jesus talks about passion and what will be your priority moving forward. Jesus talks about that treasure that is hidden, or the pearl of great value, and one will do whatever it takes in order to find it and to possess it. See, I believe that relates to our first principle. We need to have that kind of passion when we seek the presence of the eternal within our lives. If we make that our priority, we will truly experience a fulfillment in life that continues to expand. It seems more than ever we hear people talking about the need to follow your passion. I think that's great advice. So often we may find ourselves going down roads that lead us to places where we are dissatisfied with our lives or with what we discover. So we hear, follow your passion. What Jesus tells us is that follow your passion, first of all, to be aligned and be in the presence of the eternal God, because that is where you will discover passion and a fulfillment that continues to expand. It will bring into your life more than you can imagine. It will create in your finite life a sense of the infinite, the eternal. I go back to that question that Jesus asked and how it is phrased. Do you understand all this? Now, the disciples answered yes. And I wonder if they truly understood that what Jesus is looking for, the yes that Jesus is looking for, is not a memorization of those basics, those fundamentals, so to speak, the theory. The yes that Jesus looks for is how we are living out our lives. The yes with all caps is how is it that we apply to the challenges of our everyday journey what it is that it means to be in the presence of the eternal, to have our passion be to seek, to know God, and to make God known in all our relationships. I think back to playing an instrument and how there's so much theory that one needs to learn. But it really is all about making beautiful music, being a part of the symphony. I believe Christ is calling us to be in tune with the sound of eternity, the sounds and the movements of creation, the presence and the rhythms of what it means to know the living God. Because when we make that application, when we live our lives playing in that symphony, there is this incredible sense of purpose, fulfillment, and we then live a life that is for others, touching others with that very real presence of the living God. To God be the glory. Amen.